What if everything you've been told about mindfulness is only half the story?
Millions meditate every day to reduce stress. Ancient Buddhists meditated to destroy the illusion of the self. These two practices may look identical, but their goals could not be more different. That's totally undiscussed things. Today, mindfulness is a billion-dollar industry. Mina Nambis. But silence was never meant to be comfortable. This is Buddhism. In Buddhism, silence was a confrontation with reality itself. To understand why, we must travel back more than 2,500 years. We packed into Dopeworthingtant. Long before mindfulness became a productivity tool, long before meditation apps existed,
there was a prince searching for the end of suffering.
His name was Siddhartha Gautama.
And his discovery would transform human consciousness forever. But the path began with silence. Not peaceful silence. Terrifying silence. The kind of silence that forces you to meet yourself.
The kind of silence modern culture often avoids.
Because true stillness changes everything, including the person who entered it.
And that is where our journey begins. To the early Buddhists, silence was not an escape from reality. It was a direct encounter with it. The Buddha taught that most human suffering begins with craving. That we avoid pain, and we cling to an identity we believe is permanent. Silence reveals the machinery behind this endless cycle. In Buddhist practice, meditation was never merely relaxation. It was an investigation. Scientific exploration of consciousness thousands of years before modern neuroscience. Practitioners observed, thoughts arise and disappear. They watched emotions emerge and fade. They discovered that nothing inside the mind remains fixed. This insight became known as impermanence.
Everything changes. Every sensation, every thought, every identity. Yet the ego resists this truth. It wants permanence in an impermanent world. This is where silence becomes uncomfortable.
Because without distraction, the mind can no longer hide. Ancient Buddhist texts describe encounters with fear, uncertainty, and profound emptiness. Not because meditation creates these experiences, but because silence exposes what was already there. And what practitioners discovered within that silence would eventually challenge the very idea of a separate self. What ancient meditators discovered inside silence is now being studied by modern neuroscience. For thousands of years, Buddhist practitioners mapped the mind through direct observation. But the Colosseum. Today, scientists use brain scanners to investigate the same territory. One of the most important discoveries involves the default mode network. This network becomes active when the mind wanders and thinks about itself.
It helps create the ongoing story we call me.
Remarkably, deep meditation often reduces activity in this network. As self-referential thinking quiets, something unusual happens. Many meditators report a weakening of the sense of a separate self. This echoes a central Buddhist teaching known as Anatta, or non-self. According to Buddhism, the self is not a fixed entity. It is a process, a constantly changing stream of experience. Modern neuroscience has reached surprisingly similar conclusions. No single region of the brain appears to contain a permanent self. Instead, identity emerges from countless interacting processes. Ancient monks discovered this through silence. Scientists discovered it through technology. But there is an important difference. For Buddhism, these insights were never meant to increase productivity. They were meant to transform the entire understanding of who we are. And this is where the ancient path begins to diverge dramatically from modern mindfulness culture. Over the last 2 decades, mindfulness has exploded into a global industry worth billions of dollars. Meditation is now taught in corporations, schools, hospitals, and even military programs. The promise is simple: less stress, greater focus, and improved performance. And the science supporting these benefits is real. Mindfulness can reduce anxiety, improve emotional regulation, and enhance attention.
But a deeper question remains.
What happens when an ancient spiritual practice is removed from its original purpose? Many Buddhist teachers argue that something essential was lost. With a condensed, mindfulness was originally one part of a much larger path. A path designed not merely to reduce suffering, but to understand its root cause. Traditional Buddhism asked difficult questions.
Who are you beneath your thoughts? What remains when the ego disappears? Can lasting freedom be found beyond personal identity?
Modern mindfulness often avoids these questions entirely. Instead, silence is frequently marketed as a tool for becoming more efficient. The goal shifts from awakening to performance.
From liberation to optimization. From dissolving the self to improving the self.
And nowhere is this contrast clearer than in the radically different meanings each tradition gives to silence itself. To a modern mindfulness practitioner, silence often means relief from stress. And to an ancient Buddhist monk, silence meant confronting reality without distraction.
One seeks comfort. The other seeks truth.
With Mindfulness and Anatta. And truth is not always comfortable. And the ancient sutras repeatedly describe silence as a path through uncertainty. Because when the noise stops, the mind reveals itself.
every fear, every craving, every illusion.
The practitioner learns not to suppress these experiences,
but to observe them without attachment.
This is the radical core of Buddhist silence.
Not escaping suffering, understanding it. Not building a stronger ego, seeing through it. Not becoming more productive, becoming more awake.
Modern neuroscience confirms that deep meditation can fundamentally alter perception. But ancient Buddhists were never interested in brain optimization alone.
But they were investigating the deepest mystery of all.
What is the true nature of consciousness?
And what remains when the illusion of self disappears?
Perhaps silence was never empty at all.
Perhaps the silence sought by ancient Buddhist masters was not the absence of sound,